Path Media. All right, welcome to Path of the Jedi, the podcast where Star Wars meets personal development. My name is Ronnie Cruz, your host for this relaxing adventure. That's right, relaxing, because I am doing exactly that. Taking the week off, for the most part, anyways. Obviously, you have a fresh new episode this week, but not so fresh, and I'll explain that in just a second. Relaxing because it's my birthday week. My birthday was last Friday, and what I typically do is just chill out for really the rest of April. That's typically what we do. I wanted to make sure I got an episode out because I wanted to keep this ball rolling here. So what we're going to do for today's episode is actually do a retrospective. I want to share with you an old episode from our back catalog where we were discussing Andor Season 1. And for today in particular, I want to share with you the finale for Andor Season 1, our discussion for the finale of Andor Season 1. I encourage you to go back and listen to the entire season's discussion because, it's just such an incredible show. There's so much depth to it. And this was all well before we knew that there was going to be a second season. And now that there is a second season, if you're doing a rewatch especially, the discussions, I think, will really help supplement and be a great companion to your rewatch. So what we're going to do today is, again, I'm going to share with you Andor, our back catalog, our back episode, from Andor Episode 12, Rix Road.
You're listening to
Path of the Jedi
with your host, Ronnie Cruz.
All right, welcome back to Path of the Jedi, the podcast where Star Wars meets personal development. My name is Ronnie Cruz, your host for this gripping adventure. That's right, gripping adventure. It's gripping in every sense of the word, right? We're going to talk about the season finale of Andor today, and it's just a crazy, crazy emotional roller coaster, right? And I think, of course, that can be said about the entire season, right? The entire season has been gripping top to bottom, from the different storylines, the plot, the different character arcs, and everything, right? Like the emotional roller coaster that the characters go through, the emotional journeys that we as the viewers go through. There's something about this show that really, I think I was going to say it gets under your skin, but that's not really. I don't think that's the right phrase for it. It's more that it's hard to shake, right? Right, it's been weeks since the season finale episode aired, and people are still talking about it. Right, there's still a buzz going around, and in fact, the awards, various awards organizations, have really started to recognize it in their nominations. Right, in the announcements of their nominations for next year. I mean, not that that's a thing, right? We know that. A lot of these award organizations are very politically driven, in the community of Hollywood and entertainment. But it's not to say that it's not deserved, right? Andor is an amazing piece of work, and the creators, from the actors to the writers to the production team, everybody involved in the show have done just such an exceptional job delivering a piece of art that I think more than any other Star Wars media, right? And Star Wars media to me has been one of the reasons why it's so good is that there is a high level of humanity to it. But this show in particular, Andor in particular, has more humanity than any other Star Wars that we've seen thus far. And I think it's because it doesn't have anything to do with like magical people and warriors that have this code and indestructible armor. You know what I mean? Like it's just regular people. It's actually, in fact, it's this community of working class people as they face challenges and this incredible amount of adversity in the face of this fascist regime, the Empire. And so I think that's why it really resonates with people. And people are still talking about it today. And so I'm really, really excited to talk about this final episode. The show has been an incredible treat for me to share with you and to dive into the different themes. There's so much going on, and this is definitely not going to be the last episode that we talk about Andor, but yeah. Just understand it's made a huge impact. I think not just on me, but on everybody that's watched the show. And so, well, yeah. Just a shout out to the entire production, right? To the entire show, all of everybody involved. Kudos and an early shout out in the episode to all of you for this amazing accomplishment, for giving us again this incredible piece of art that allows us to reflect ourselves, that is a reflection of ourselves, and therefore allows us to reflect on ourselves. So thank you to everybody involved in the creation of this show. Whatever other recognitions you garner and receive from press and from critics and from viewers and from organizations, all of it, understand, at least in my perspective, is well deserved. So yeah, we're going to talk about the season finale today. Before we get into all of that, however, a couple of things I want to let you know. Number one, my stool is incredibly creaky today. It's squeaky, and I don't want to get up to spray WD-40 on it because I don't want to, ruin my flow. I'm in a good flow right now. Yeah, if you hear it's kind of like a farting sound, to be honest. It's not me. If I actually farted in the episode during the recording, I would cut it out. But since I'm very excited about talking about Andor, I'm moving around a lot, and so it's creating a lot of noise from the stool. The second thing is I have my dogs with me, or at least two out of the four dogs are with me in my room recording right now. They seem a little restless today, so they wanted to hang out with me as I recorded. So you might hear some dog movement, some scratchies, maybe even some snoring, sneezes, their dog collar, things like that in the background. Understand that, I'm a human being with animals in my house, so they love it. They love Star Wars, and well, yeah, Kylo Ren's sleeping on the floor, so hopefully he's the most hyper one. So hopefully he stays asleep during the recording. Okay, Rix Road. I mean, so much can be discussed about this, and I'm not going to get into like what happened and sequences of events kinds of things, because that can easily chew up, 15 minutes. I want to really start getting into themes and looking at this show, not just from the perspective of this particular episode, but that even though that's what we're going to focus on, but as a whole, right? As a whole, because everything that we bring into as viewers of this season finale is informed by everything that we watched in the episodes before, right? So for me, the standout thing, okay, well, starting at the beginning, right? The beginning of the episode. The thing that stood out to me was the character of Nurchi, right? Nurchi, and I know that's kind of a weird thing to say because like he's a pretty minor character, but he makes a big impact, right? He makes maybe not impact necessarily, but he makes a big impression because in a culture. Like the one on Ferrix, right? This is a culture and that is very much community driven. I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, right? It's a very close knit culture. It's a very supportive culture. I mean, we see that with Marva when as she was becoming more and more ill and more frail. The community was around, right? They were checking in on her, even in Cassian's absence. The community was coming in and seeing if she was okay, if she needed anything else. Oh, you need to go to the doctor, making sure that she was not only taken care of, but that she was taking care of herself. So I get that sense about the culture of Ferrix. I mean, even their memorial services and how they memorialize and remember their dead, it becomes part of the community. A brick, that helps continue to hold up the community, literally and figuratively, right? And so, I love that. And again, it's an amazing. Convention is the wrong word, but I love how they've created this culture and this character of the people of Ferrix, because it allows allows us to really, well, it resonates with us, right? Like we can really see ourselves in these people and in this culture as they're experiencing, again, the incredible amount of adversity and friction coming from the empire. So it allows us, I think, to feel what's happening even more, because we can see ourselves in this community, in this culture. That said, with Nurchi in the picture, he's the one character on Ferrix. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's more, but he's the one that we get to see, who is a complete antithesis to what, to the rest of that culture, right? To the rest of that community and that supportiveness. He's really just out for himself, right? He's only looking out for himself. We saw that in the very first episode. And we see it here at the beginning of the last episode. Actually, now that I think about it, we saw him pretty close to the beginning of the first episode, and now we see him pretty close to the beginning of the last episode. I like that bookend. Very, very clever. Okay, so sorry, that just popped in my head. Nurchi being kind of this standout figure, he's very selfish, right? And he's only looking out for himself. So like with all of this stuff that's going on in the preparation for the memorial service and everybody taking care of everybody else, everybody looking out for everybody else, Nurchi stands out like a sore thumb. He stands out like a sore thumb. At least, of course, from the viewer standpoint, from the spectator standpoint. So I love that this contrast is drawn, and it immediately for me kind of has me, like reflecting on everybody else, right? Like all the characters that we've met along this crazy ride. What are their motivations, right? What drives them? Like is it are they driven by things that are external, or are they more focused on themselves, like Nurchi is? And it just really runs the gamut, and also doesn't matter what side of this conflict they happen to be on, whether they're for the empire, or they're from for the rebellion, or they're just citizens of Ferrix that are caught in the middle. If you look at the ISB, for example, they're motivated by to please the emperor, basically, right? Like I forget his character's name, Deidre's boss. The superintendent. Let's just say that he communicates as much, right? Like what's important is that the emperor is satisfied, right? Like that this bad taste of Aldani and the heist has left his mouth. So like it's just the primary directive is to please the emperor. Where you have, like, within that unit, you have Deidre, and it seems that her primary directive is just to do what's right? Like follow the rule of law and enforce the regulations. If that means taking down this growing rebellion and these outlaws, she's not like for me. Deidre, or Dedra, depending on your accent. I know I said that last week. She's not really a bad person necessarily. She's not like evil in the sense of like the empire is all evil and self-serving. She's just doing what she believes is right, and she wants to do her job well. Yes, there is a little bit of there is a little bit of wanting to kind of climb that corporate ladder. But I think it's more so from a sense of duty. And then you look at somebody like Cyril. He says that he has these ideals of law and order like Dedra does, but his motivations have really shifted from that to to his obsession with Deidre, right? And that's like, I mean, he immediately forgets everything else once he gets to Ferrix, and he fixates again on Deidre, right? Like, because he's he's obsessed with her. He's probably the type of guy that would have, like, pillows and comforters and bed sheets with her face printed on them, I mean, pajamas, socks, right? So like that's his motivation. Again, like that's more kind of a self, he's focused on his own obsession, right? Like that's what's driving him. It's internally focused. and of course, you have Nurchi, who's focused on himself. He's very kind of self-serving. He's only looking out for number one, right? Even if it means selling out an important member of the community. Like, yes, Cassian is wanted. Yes, Cassian might be an outlaw, but like the most of the community is looking out for his interests, right? Or at the very least, is not turning him in, right? So yeah, like it's so crazy to watch these things, and really it's for me, the conversation boils down to Marva. It boils down to Marva. You can't get around it. Like the speech that she makes in the hollow that she recorded, it's incredible because, well, for me, it's knowing what kind of legacy and impact you leave, right. Like she got to a point in her life that, well, she very much knew that her time was coming to an end imminently, right. Like that her death was really just around the corner, and so given that, she wanted to make sure that she made as much of an impact as she can. Not that she didn't before that, but she wanted to really go out with a bang. And so for me, it's just like, yeah, what kind of legacy do you want to leave, right? Because again, from an existential standpoint, we all are going to get there, and not for this episode to be morbid or anything like that. But I think if we accept this, right, if we accept the impermanence and we don't get attached to life as we know it, if we realize that, okay, it is a limited time span, then we really, I think one of the best things we can do is ask ourselves every day with every interaction is, well, what impact do I want to make right now? Right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be massive. Like, you don't have to start a revolution like Marva did. You don't have to inspire, an entire planet to action. None of that stuff necessarily. And here's the thing: there's no scale, right? Like, there's no measure. There's no big or small. Every imprint and impact that you make is an imprint and an impact that will be your legacy, good or bad. And so that's, I think, to grow that awareness, to be aware that we do leave an impact in everything that we do with everybody that we interact with. I would hope that would give us pause, so that we can really leave a legacy that is worthy of what we're capable of leaving. Right? And I know that sounds like really big words, and like that we have to make this kind of deep impact. And again, I want you to understand, there's no measure. There's really no measure. If you want to, like Marva, you can, of course, make a huge impact, right? Like, there's lots of things in the world, and there's lots of people. There's lots of things in the world that definitely need your voice and that need your help. And there are a lot of people that I know you can inspire with your story and with your perspective. And you can do that. You can certainly do that. You can also just, again, make sure that you're leaving every interaction having made a positive impact as opposed to a negative one. Because while Marva did kick off this entire rebellion, I know we thought that it was Luthen that was driving that ship, but here's Marva that was willing to do it openly. I know, she even says it's easier to say this, now that I'm not here. But we have to fight, right? So she doesn't hide from it. Like, that's the legacy that she leaves. Whereas Luthen is hiding, right? I mean, yes, he believes in the mission, but again, it seems more self-serving than Marva's, because she's willing to stake her entire legacy on it. Whether it's that kind of legacy, or if you really examine and reflect on Marva's character, the impact that she makes by taking care of a little boy who had no family, right? Like what she did for Cassian. And yes, of course, we know that Cassian's life has been full of struggle and it's been difficult. And, we know what it leads to, right? It leads to a life outside of at least the Empire's law. But she gave him a life, right? She gave him a family. and she gave him love that he wouldn't otherwise have, and like he was blaming himself like for not coming back sooner, for not being there for her. And I don't have the exact dialogue or quote, but her message to Cassian was absolutely incredible. And Clem too, as his father, his surrogate father. Clem and Marva as Cassian's parents have left a lasting legacy for the better, at least for Cassian's life. Right? They made the impact. They made an imprint on him. Well, yeah, it was an imprint of love. Right? It was selfless, as opposed to, again, Nurchi, who is the opposite. Right? Nurchi has did spend his life only looking out for himself, because he gets injured, and I think he dies in the explosion towards the end of this episode. So like that's the perspective. Do you want to spend your time, however much time it is, going for selfish things? And not to say that you shouldn't take care of yourself and you shouldn't look out for yourself, but if that's the only goal, if that goal is at the expense of others, like Nurchi, he was looking out for himself at the expense of Cassian, and wanting to get revenge, etc., whatever the reasons might be. It also goes back to the episode where we talked about karma, right? Every action has an opposite and equal reaction, and it comes back to bite you in the ass. So getting back on track. Sorry, sidetrack there. Do you want your legacy to be that, right? Do you want to go out being remembered as the guy who tried to turn Cassian in, who did everything that was kind of in antithesis to the character of the culture of Ferrix, of the people who you're supposed to be a part of, of the community that you're supposed to be a part of? Or do you inspire like Marva? You inspire on a grand level, not just the people of Ferrix on that planet in that moment, but go on as a result to have that ripple effect around the galaxy. Do you inspire and touch the life of one singular individual, right? Because one singular individual is a life that's the world to that one person, like Cassian, right? Made a huge difference in Cassian's life. And so to me, this show, look at the title. It's Andor. Yes, of course, it's about Cassian. Of course, we're following his story, and we're going to continue to follow his story. But this season, as much as it is about Cassian, I realize at the end of this episode that it's just as much about Marva and Clem, right? Marva especially. She's Andor. She's Marva Andor. She calls to action. She inspired people to move, to go beyond what they thought they were capable of, and she mobilized people to doing something to look outside themselves and to do something that was greater than just looking out for yourself. And I would wager to say, because again the culture of Ferrix is the way it is, that they were easily and more willing to do it, except of course for Nurchi. So really, the question is, right? Like, again, there's no measure as to the impact. There's no measure as to the legacy that you leave. It's what legacy, right? How are you going to leave that legacy? Are you going to leave that legacy by? Are you going to leave a legacy looking out for yourself and your self-interest, and being reactive and not being in the mindful of the moment and how you're behaving and how you're treating people, and what impact you're making in the lives and the community that you interact with, and therefore the world. For me, the show is titled Andor, and it's titled Andor. It's not titled Nurchi. So that's the answer. That's the answer for me. And it's not so much that like it's always going to be perfect. I recognize we're all human. We're all susceptible to foibles and just short-sightedness and the for lack of a better word, the flaws of what it means to be human. But as long as we're aware of that and that we're working towards an ideal, then I think that's really, in our day-to-day lives will really affect how we operate, and will really affect how we treat each other, how we treat ourselves, and therefore the impact and then the legacy that we end up leaving. We don't know. Yeah, we don't know. Yes, it is an existential question for a lot of us. We don't think that our death is imminent, but we never know. We never know. So better to think of things in a sense of the here and now, and what we're doing in the here and now to leave the impact and the legacy that we want to leave. Are you going to be a Mirchi, or are you going to be a Marva?
Okay, so that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully this has encouraged and inspired you to go back and listen to our back catalog, listen to the rest of this Andor Season 1 discussions. If you're doing a rewatch, or even if you're watching Andor for the first time, so you're all caught up for Season 2, I think, it'll be a great companion to your viewing of Andor Season 1, because again, like I said, there's so much depth and richness to this show, which makes me so excited for Season 2. If Season 2 is anywhere near as good as Season 1, then we're definitely in for a ride, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about. So that brings me to my next point. If you're not already following the show, please go ahead and hit that plus sign on top of at the top of whatever app you happen to be listening on. That's really one of the best ways, the best way to help us grow this show. My goal, I've said this pretty much constantly for the last couple of months, my goal is to grow this show so that I can eventually, for the next Star Wars celebration, wherever and whenever that happens to be, so that I can attend that Star Wars celebration as a podcaster. And I've said this also, I don't know what exactly that entails or what that looks like. I just know that growing this show and growing the listenership and the subscriber base, as well as the number of downloads, will really help in achieving that goal. So yeah, if you could go ahead and follow the show, and then of course the other thing that can really help, the second best way to help us grow this show is by sharing it. Right? If you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed the show, just click that share button. It takes 3 to 5 seconds, doesn't take any time at all, and send it to just one person who you think might enjoy and appreciate this content, might enjoy and appreciate the show and the principles and the messages that we discuss here. So that I would really appreciate it. I'd be forever in your debt. All right, well, that is going to do it for today's episode. Thank you again for tuning in. We'll catch you next week with a fresh new one. So until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and may the Force be with you. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company nor Lucasfilm Limited, and is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names and sounds and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is intellectual property of Path of the Jedi unless otherwise indicated.